The galaxy was vast, cold, and indifferent. Billions of stars burned silently in the endless void, their light stretching across unimaginable distances. Among them, humanity had carved out a fragile foothold, spreading to distant planets and moons, but always living under the shadow of fear. They were not alone in this universe. Other species, some ancient, some young, had claimed their own territories, forming empires that dwarfed humanity's scattered colonies. For centuries, humans had hidden their presence, building civilizations quietly, hoping no one would notice. But now, they were ready to reveal their greatest secret. Far beyond Earth, past the orbit of Neptune, deep within the icy reaches of the Kuiper Belt, something stirred. It wasn't alive, but it felt like it was breathing, a slow, steady pulse that echoed through the emptiness. To any passing observer, it appeared as nothing more than another chunk of rock drifting aimlessly through space. A dead moon, perhaps, or an asteroid too small to care about. But beneath its dull gray surface lay a masterpiece of engineering, a weapon so powerful, so unimaginably large, that it could change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. This was Erebus, the culmination of centuries of human ingenuity and sacrifice. Disguised as a lifeless celestial body, it was, in fact, a planet-sized warship. Its construction had begun decades ago, during a time when humanity first encountered alien civilizations. At first, those encounters had been peaceful, even hopeful. Humans dreamed of alliances, trade routes, and shared knowledge. But dreams turned sour when they realized the truth. The galaxy was not a place of harmony. It was a battleground, ruled by empires that saw weaker species as prey. Humanity was weak, outnumbered, and outgunned. And so, the decision was made. Instead of surrendering or begging for mercy, humanity would build something unstoppable. Erebus was the result. Its outer shell mimicked the craters and ridges of a natural satellite, hiding the labyrinth of corridors, reactors, and weapon systems inside. Beneath its rocky exterior, massive engines hummed softly, waiting to be awakened. Railguns capable of firing projectiles at near-light speeds lined its equator, while quantum disruptors designed to tear apart enemy fleets rested in concealed bays. The ship's most fearsome feature, however, was its cloaking system. Powered by technology stolen from alien ruins and refined over decades, it rendered Erebus invisible to every form of detection known to science. No radar, no telescope, no sensor array could pierce its veil. For all intents and purposes, Erebus did not exist. Dr. Alara Voss stood on the observation deck of Erebus, staring out at the endless blackness outside. She was tall and slender, with sharp features framed by short silver hair. Her eyes were tired, weighed down by years of relentless work. As the lead architect of Erebus, she had spent the better part of her life designing and overseeing its construction. Every bolt, every wire, every line of code running through its systems bore her mark. Yet, standing here now, she couldn't help but feel a pang of unease. "It's beautiful," said a voice behind her. Alara turned to see Captain Cale Rennick approaching. He was younger than her, broad-shouldered, with dark skin and piercing green eyes. His uniform was immaculate, though he wore it with an air of casual confidence rather than rigid formality. Beautiful wasn't a word Alara would have used to describe Erebus. Functional, yes. Terrifying, certainly. But beautiful? Not quite. "It's efficient," she replied, turning back to the viewport. "That's what matters." Rennick chuckled. "Efficient enough to end wars before they start? That's the idea." Alara crossed her arms, her gaze fixed on the stars. "If we do this right, no one will ever know it exists. It'll just sit out here, watching, waiting. A deterrent, not a weapon. And if it comes to that?" Rennick asked, his tone quieter now. "What happens if we have to use it?" Alara didn't answer immediately. She knew the question was inevitable, but that didn't make it any easier to face. Erebus was built to protect humanity, but its sheer scale meant it could also destroy entire worlds. The thought weighed heavily on her conscience. How many lives would be lost if they unleashed its full potential? Would it truly save humanity or doom them instead? "We won't need to think about that today," she said finally, forcing herself to sound calm. "Right now, our job is to finish the final tests. Make sure everything works perfectly." Rennick nodded, sensing her discomfort. He didn't push further. Instead, he joined her at the viewport, gazing out at the silent expanse of space. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like?" he asked after a moment. "To actually use it, I mean." "All the time," Alara admitted. "The wondering doesn't change anything. We've come too far to turn back now." As if on cue, the lights dimmed slightly, signaling the start of the next phase of testing. Alara straightened, shaking off her doubts. There would be time for reflection later. Right now, there was work to do over the next several hours. The crew of Erebus conducted a series of simulations, pushing the ship's systems to their limits. Engines roared to life, sending faint vibrations through the hull. Weapon arrays powered up, their energy signatures carefully masked to avoid detection. In the command center, technicians monitored streams of data, ensuring every component functioned flawlessly. Everything went according to plan, until it didn't. An alarm blared suddenly, breaking the tense silence. Alara rushed to the nearest console, her heart pounding. On the screen, a warning flashed. Unauthorized signal detected. Someone or something was trying to breach their communications network. "Where's it coming from?" Rennick demanded, already moving toward the security team. "Unknown," one of the technicians replied, typing furiously. "It's bouncing off multiple relays. Could be a malfunction or someone knows we're here," Alara finished grimly. For a moment, panic rippled through the room. Then discipline took over. Orders were barked, countermeasures deployed. Within minutes, the signal was traced to a single source, a damaged probe floating near the edge of Erebus' cloaking field. It was old, barely functional, but unmistakably alien. One of their own surveillance drones must have stumbled upon it by accident. Alara clenched her fists, anger mixing with dread. This was exactly what they had feared. If even one piece of information leaked, it could unravel everything. The galaxy wasn't ready for Erebus, not yet. Maybe not ever. "Destroy it," she ordered, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "And tighten the perimeter." No chances. As the probe disintegrated into dust, Alara allowed herself a brief moment of relief. But deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, but secrets rarely stay buried for long. Sooner or later, someone would find them. And when that day came, Erebus would have to be ready. The galaxy was a dangerous place, filled with species that had little patience for humanity's presence. For years, humans had tried to stay out of sight, avoiding conflicts and focusing on survival. But now, whispers began to spread among the stars, whispers about strange happenings near Earth's solar system. Alien diplomats exchanged worried glances in their Grand Council chambers. Military commanders pored over star maps, marking areas where gravitational anomalies had been detected. Something was amiss, and everyone wanted answers. Captain Cale Rennick sat alone in his quarters aboard Erebus, staring at the glowing display of his personal console. The news updates were coming in faster than usual, each one more troubling than the last. Reports of unusual energy signatures near Pluto, rumors of unexplained disturbances in asteroid belts. Even the Zanari Dominion, the insectoid empire known for its brutal efficiency, had sent out scout ships to investigate. It wasn't hard to guess what they were looking for. Though Erebus remained cloaked and hidden, its existence seemed to cast a shadow across the galaxy. Rennick sighed, running a hand over his face. He hated this part of the job, the waiting, the uncertainty. As commander of Erebus, he bore the weight of responsibility for every decision made aboard the ship. His orders were clear: maintain secrecy at all costs. Yet, as tensions rose among alien factions, he couldn't shake the feeling that hiding might not be enough anymore. What if someone found them? What if they attacked before Erebus could respond? His thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. "Come in," he called, straightening up. Dr. Alara Voss entered, her expression grim. She carried a tablet under one arm, its screen flickering with data streams. "We've got a problem," she said without preamble, handing him the device. On it, a series of graphs showed spikes in subspace interference patterns. To anyone else, they might have looked like random noise, but to Rennick and Voss, they told a story. Someone or something was probing the edges of Erebus' cloaking field. "Are we compromised?" Rennick asked, his voice low. "Not yet," Voss replied. "But whoever's doing this is persistent. They're using long-range sensors, bouncing signals off nearby debris fields. Sooner or later, they'll get lucky." Rennick frowned, studying the readouts. "Who do you think it is?" "It could be anyone," Voss admitted. "The Zenari are the most likely suspects. They've always been suspicious of us. Or it could be the Voidborn Collective. They're less aggressive, but they're curious enough to take risks." "The Voidborn?" Rennick muttered, recalling what little he knew about them. Their technology was advanced, almost mystical in nature. If they discovered Erebus, it wouldn't matter how well hidden it was. They'd find a way to exploit it. Voss nodded, her jaw tightening. "Either way, we can't afford to sit here and wait. We need to move." Rennick hesitated. Moving Erebus was no small task. The ship's quantum displacement drive allowed it to leap vast distances instantly, but activating it required precise calculations and enormous amounts of energy. Any mistake could leave them exposed or worse, stranded in deep space. Still, staying put wasn't an option either. "Not anymore. All right," he said finally. "Prepare the crew. We relocate tomorrow." The next day, the atmosphere aboard Erebus was tense. Technicians scurried through corridors, double-checking systems and securing loose equipment. In the command center, officers monitored every detail of the ship's status, their faces pale with concentration. At the heart of it all stood Rennick, calm but alert, issuing commands with quiet authority. "Cloaking field stable," reported Lieutenant Mara Kincaid, her fingers dancing across her console. "Gravitational dampeners online. Quantum displacement drive charging at 70%. "Good," Rennick replied. "Keep me updated." Beside him, Voss watched silently, her arms crossed. She hadn't slept much the night before, haunted by doubts about their plan. Relocating Erebus was risky, yes, but staying in one place felt even riskier. Every second they delayed increased the chances of discovery. And once that happened, there would be no turning back. "Captain," Kincaid called suddenly, her tone sharp. "We've got movement outside the perimeter." Rennick turned sharply. "What kind of movement?" "A single craft," Kincaid replied, pulling up a holographic display. A tiny dot appeared on the map, hovering just beyond the edge of Arov's cloaking field. "It's small, probably a drone, but it's moving erratically, like it's scanning." "Can we disable it remotely?" Rennick asked. Voss shook her head. "Too risky. If we fire anything, even a pulse beam, we risk exposing ourselves." "Then send a team to intercept," Rennick ordered. Quietly. "I don't want any traces left behind." Within minutes, a squad of engineers and security personnel suited up and boarded a shuttle. Their mission was simple: capture the intruder and bring it back for analysis. If necessary, destroy it, but only as a last resort. As the shuttle departed, Rennick paced the command center, his mind racing. This was exactly the kind of situation he'd feared. One slip-up, One miscalculation, and Erebus' cover would be blown. He glanced at Voss, who stood rigidly by the main console, her eyes glued to the monitors. "They'll handle it," he said, trying to reassure her as much as himself. "I hope so," she murmured. "Because if they don't—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Hours passed, and the tension aboard Erebus grew unbearable. Finally, the shuttle returned, carrying the captured drone. It was sleek and metallic, its design unlike anything human-made. Its surface shimmered faintly, as though alive. Voss wasted no time examining it, her hands trembling slightly as she connected diagnostic tools. "What is it?" Rennick asked, peering over her shoulder. "It's Zenari," she confirmed grimly. "And it's transmitting. To where?" She hesitated, then pointed to a blinking icon on her screen. "Somewhere in the inner rim. Probably one of their relay stations." Rennick cursed under his breath. "How much has it sent?" "Enough," Voss replied. "Coordinates, sensor readings, maybe even images? Whoever finds this will know we're out here." For a moment, silence fell over the room. Then Rennick straightened, his expression hardening. "We move. Now." Voss nodded, already barking orders to her team. Within minutes, Erebus' massive engines roared to life, their vibrations shaking the entire structure. The quantum displacement drive hummed ominously, building power for the jump. Outside, the cloaking field shimmered briefly, distorting the surrounding space. "Drive's at 90%, Kincaid announced. 60 seconds to activation. All hands." "Brace for displacement," Rennick ordered. His voice steady despite the chaos around him as the countdown ticked away. Voss stood beside him, gripping the railing tightly. Her mind raced with possibilities. Where would they go? How long could they keep running? And most importantly, what would happen when they were finally found? The answer came sooner than expected. With a deafening roar, Erebus vanished from its position in the Kuiper Belt. For a split second, the fabric of space seemed to tear apart, swallowing the colossal ship whole. When it reappeared moments later, it was light years away, nestled safely within the swirling gases of a distant nebula. The maneuver was flawless, but not without consequences. Across the galaxy, sensitive instruments picked up faint ripples in space-time. Alien astronomers stared at their monitors in confusion, wondering what had caused such an anomaly. Diplomats exchanged urgent messages, speculating about the source of the disturbance. And somewhere in the void, the Zenari Dominion prepared for war. Erebus had moved unseen, untouched, but its presence had been felt. The nebula was a sea of colors, swirling clouds of deep reds, vibrant purples, and shimmering blues. It stretched endlessly in every direction, a chaotic dance of gas and dust illuminated by the faint glow of distant stars. To most, it would have seemed like a peaceful corner of the galaxy, untouched by conflict or strife. But for Erebus and its crew, it was anything but calming. Every flicker of light, every ripple in the gas clouds, felt like a potential threat. They had fled here to hide, but even the beauty of the nebula couldn't mask the tension aboard the massive warship. Captain Cale Rennick stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the main viewport. The swirling colors outside were mesmerizing, but he didn't allow himself to be distracted. His mind raced with questions. Had they moved far enough? Were they still being tracked? And if someone found them here, what then? The thought of facing an enemy fleet without allies, without backup, sent a chill down his spine. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to focus. Worrying wouldn't help. Action would. "Status report," he said, turning to Lieutenant Mara Kincaid, who sat at her station nearby. "All systems stable," Kincaid replied, her voice steady despite the weight of the situation. "Cloaking field is holding. No signs of pursuit." Rennick nodded, though his expression remained grim. Good. Keep scanning. I don't want any surprises. Yes, sir. Dr. Alara Voss entered the bridge moments later, carrying a tablet filled with data. Her face was pale, her usual calm demeanor replaced by visible exhaustion. She hadn't slept since their hasty departure from the Kuiper Belt, and the strain was starting to show. Still, she approached Rennick with determination, handing him the tablet. We analyzed the Zenari drone, she said quietly. It was more advanced than we thought. Even after we destroyed it, there's no guarantee we stopped the transmission completely. Rennick frowned, scrolling through the information on the screen. So they know we're out here. They might, Voss admitted. Or they might just suspect. Either way, it's only a matter of time before someone comes looking. Rennick sighed, rubbing his temples. Then, we need to decide what happens next. Do we stay hidden and hope for the best? Or do we take the fight to them before they find us? Voss hesitated, glancing around the bridge. The crew worked silently, their movements precise and efficient, but the air was thick with unease. Everyone knew the stakes. If Erebus was discovered, humanity's greatest weapon could become its greatest liability. I don't think we have a choice, she said finally. If we wait too long, we'll lose the advantage. Erebus was built to protect us, not to sit idle while the galaxy prepares for war. Rennick nodded slowly. Agreed. But if we act, we need to do it carefully. One wrong move, and we'll have every alien empire in the galaxy gunning for us. Before Voss could respond, an alarm blared suddenly, shattering the tense silence. The lights on the bridge dimmed slightly as the ship's sensors detected something unusual outside. Report. Rennick barked, spinning toward Kincaid. Unknown vessels approaching. Kincaid replied, her fingers flying across her console. 3 ships, maybe more. They're moving fast. Rennick's stomach tightened. Identify them. Kincaid hesitated, her brow furrowing as she studied the readings. They're Zenari. Definitely Zenari. A collective murmur rippled through the bridge. The Zenari Dominion was known for its brutal efficiency and relentless expansion. Their ships were sleek and insectoid in design, bristling with weapons capable of tearing apart entire fleets. Facing them head-on was suicide, but running wasn't an option either. Not now. Raise shields, Rennick ordered, his voice firm. Activate defensive arrays. I want every weapon system ready. Yes, sir, came the chorus of replies. Voss stepped closer to Rennick, her voice low but urgent. We can't fight them here. If we reveal ourselves, we'll lose the element of surprise. I know, Rennick said, his jaw tightening. But if they stumble onto us, we'll lose everything. For a moment, the two locked eyes, weighing their options. Then Voss nodded, stepping back. Do what you have to do. Outside, the Zenari ships grew closer, their movements deliberate and calculated. They spread out in a wide arc, sweeping the area with advanced scanners. It was clear they were searching for something or someone. Whether they suspected Erebus' presence or were simply investigating the anomaly caused by its displacement drive, it didn't matter. What mattered was that they were getting too close. Cloaking field holding? Rennick asked. Barely, Kincaid replied. Their sensors are powerful. If they get much closer, they'll detect us. Rennick's mind raced. There had to be a way out of this. An idea began to form, risky but potentially effective. He turned to Voss, his expression resolute. We're going to ambush them, he said. Voss blinked, startled. What? We let them think they've found nothing. Then, when they're within range, we strike. Hard and fast. We disable their ships, send a message, and disappear before reinforcements arrive. It's dangerous, Voss warned. If we fail, we won't fail, Rennick interrupted, his tone leaving no room for argument. This is why Erebus exists. This is what it was built for. Voss opened her mouth to protest, but she stopped herself, Deep down, she knew he was right. Hiding forever wasn't an option. Sooner or later, they'd have to fight. Better to choose the battlefield than wait for the enemy to dictate terms. "All right," she said finally. "Let's do it." The plan unfolded with precision. Erebus remained cloaked, its massive bulk blending seamlessly into the colorful haze of the nebula. The Zanari ships continued their search, growing bolder as they detected no signs of resistance. They split up, each vessel venturing deeper into the gas clouds. It was exactly what Rennick had hoped for. "Target the lead ship," he ordered, his voice calm but commanding. "Disable its engines. Don't destroy it." "Yes, sir," Kincaid replied. Locking on to the designated target dot at Rennick's signal, Erebus unleashed its first volley. A single railgun round, fired at near-light speed, streaked silently through space. It struck the Zanari ship with devastating force, crippling its propulsion systems without causing catastrophic damage. The vessel drifted helplessly, its crew scrambling to assess the situation. Before the other Zanari ships could react, Erebus struck again. This time, it deployed quantum disruptors' energy beams designed to scramble enemy systems. The second ship faltered, its shields collapsing under the assault. The third ship attempted to retreat, but Erebus' superior speed and firepower made escape impossible. Within minutes, all three vessels were disabled, their crews trapped and confused. On the bridge, the crew erupted into cheers. For the first time since their journey began, they had proven Erebus' power. But Rennick silenced them with a raised hand. "This isn't over," he said sharply. "We need to finish this quickly and vanish. If reinforcements arrive, we're done." Voss nodded, already issuing orders. "Send a broadcast to the surviving ships. Let them know who we are and what happens if they come after us again." Moments later, a recorded message echoed across the void, transmitted directly to the stranded Zanari vessels. It was simple and to the point. "You have encountered humanity's strength. Leave us alone or face annihilation." As the transmission ended, Erebus activated its quantum displacement drive once more. With a deafening roar, the planet-sized warship vanished into the depths of space, leaving behind only the wreckage of its enemies and the memory of its overwhelming power. Across the galaxy, whispers of Erebus spread rapidly. The Zanari Dominion vowed revenge, while other alien empires watched with a mixture of fear and awe. Humanity's greatest secret was no longer hidden, but neither was its resolve. And somewhere in the endless void, Erebus waited, ready to strike again. The galaxy was buzzing. News of Erebus' attack on the Zanari fleet spread like wildfire, carried by every communication network and relay station. Alien leaders gathered in emergency sessions, their voices rising in alarm. What had happened? Who or what had done it? Theories abounded, but one thing was certain. Humanity had revealed itself as a force to be reckoned with. For days after the ambush, Captain Cale Rennick paced the corridors of Erebus, his mind heavy with the weight of what they had done. It was supposed to be a warning, a message to keep enemies at bay. But instead of deterring conflict, it seemed to have ignited it. Reports poured in from human colonies scattered across the stars. Alien fleets were mobilizing, their movements aggressive and deliberate. Colonists begged for protection, their messages filled with panic. Humanity's greatest secret had become its biggest liability. Dr. Alara Voss felt the strain just as deeply. She spent hours in her lab, analyzing data and running simulations, searching for solutions that didn't exist. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the faces of those who would suffer because of Erebus. She had built it to protect humanity, but now it felt like a weapon of destruction. Her conscience gnawed at her, relentless and unforgiving. On the bridge, Lieutenant Mara Kincaid watched the monitors closely, her fingers hovering over her console. "We've got incoming," she announced suddenly, breaking the tense silence. Multiple ships approaching. Rennick straightened, his expression hardening. "How many?" "Dozens," Kincaid replied, her voice tight. "They're not broadcasting any identification signals." "They don't need to," Voss muttered bitterly. "It's clear who sent them." Rennick nodded grimly. "Prepare for combat." The alien armada was massive, a chaotic swarm of vessels representing several different species. They were sleek Zenari cruisers, their insectoid designs bristling with weapons. Towering void-born constructs floated ominously, their surfaces shimmering with strange energy. And mixed among them were smaller, less advanced ships, likely mercenaries hired to bolster the fleet. Together, they formed a blockade around a major human colony, cutting off supplies and communications. Erebus arrived silently, emerging from the void like a ghost. Its cloaking field masked its presence until the last possible moment. Then, with a sudden flash of light, it decloaked, dwarfing the enemy fleet with its sheer size. Gasps rippled through the alien commanders as they realized what they were facing. Erebus wasn't just a ship, it was a planet-sized behemoth. A monolith of metal and power unlike anything they had ever seen. "This is Commander Cale Rennick of Erebus." Rennick's voice boomed over an open channel, amplified to reach every ship in the vicinity. "Withdraw immediately, or face the consequences." The response came quickly, a cacophony of angry replies in multiple languages. Some demanded surrender. Others vowed revenge. None showed any sign of backing down. "Guess we're doing this the hard way," Rennick muttered, signaling his crew to begin the assault. Erebus unleashed its full might, firing railguns and quantum disruptors with devastating precision. Enemy ships exploded in bursts of flame, their debris scattering across space. Railgun rounds tore through hulls like paper, while disruptor beams scrambled systems and disabled engines. Within minutes, the once formidable armada was reduced to chaos dot, but even Erebus couldn't fight endlessly. Its weapons required immense amounts of energy, and prolonged use strained its reactors. The alien forces, though battered, refused to retreat. Reinforcements continued to arrive, drawn by the promise of glory or riches. For every ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. "We can't keep this up forever," Voss warned, her voice trembling. "If we stay here much longer, we'll burn out the core." "I know," Rennick replied, his jaw clenched. "But if we leave now, the colony will fall." Voss hesitated, then stepped closer to him. "There's another option." Rennick turned to her, his brow furrowing. "What are you talking about?" She gestured toward the viewport, where the battle raged fiercely. "We make them remember us. We show them exactly what Erebus is capable of." Rennick stared at her, understanding dawning slowly. "You mean?" "Yes," Voss said firmly. "We simulate total annihilation. Make them believe we're willing to destroy everything, including ourselves, if they push us too far. It was a risky plan, but it might work. Using Erebus' quantum displacement drive, they could create a massive energy surge, simulating the detonation of a doomsday weapon. The explosion wouldn't be real, but it would look convincing enough to terrify anyone watching. "Do it," Rennick ordered, turning back to the crew. "Prepare the displacement drive." Full power. The crew sprang into action, rerouting energy reserves and recalibrating systems. Outside, the alien fleet pressed forward, sensing victory within reach. They surrounded Erebus, firing everything they had in a desperate attempt to bring it down. But Erebus was too strong, its shields holding firm against the barrage. Then, without warning, the lights dimmed across the ship. A low hum filled the air, growing louder and more intense with each passing second. On the bridge, alarms blared as the displacement drive reached critical levels. The countdown began, ticking away the final moments before the simulated blast. 3, 2, 1. Kincaid whispered, her hands gripping her console tightly. With a deafening roar, Erebus unleashed its energy surge. A blinding sphere of light erupted outward, engulfing the battlefield in an instant. Alien ships were consumed by the wave, their systems overloaded and destroyed. When the light faded, nothing remained but drifting wreckage in empty space. Across the galaxy, the event was recorded and replayed endlessly. Footage of the explosion circulated among alien empires, sparking both fear and outrage. Some called it an act of genocide. Others saw it as proof of humanity's ruthlessness. No one doubted its message. Erebus was not to be trifled with. Back aboard Erebus, the mood was somber. The crew worked tirelessly to repair damage sustained during the battle, their movements mechanical and weary. In the command center, Rennick sat alone, staring at the main viewport. The nebula outside was peaceful again, its colors swirling gently in the darkness. But inside, the cost of their actions weighed heavily. Voice joined him after a while, standing quietly beside him. "Do you think it was worth it?" she asked softly. Rennick didn't answer immediately. He thought about the colony they had saved, the lives spared by their intervention. But he also thought about the ships they had destroyed, the countless beings who had died because of their decision. "I don't know," he admitted finally. "All I know is that we did what we had to do." Voss nodded, her expression troubled. "And now?" "Now we wait," Rennick said, his voice steady despite the uncertainty ahead. "Whatever happens next, Erebus will be ready." Somewhere in the vastness of space, the galaxy held its breath. The galaxy was silent. For days after Erebus simulated annihilation, no alien fleet dared to approach human territories. The sight of entire armadas vanishing in an instant had left a scar on the collective psyche of every species. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some claimed Erebus was a sentient weapon. Others whispered it was powered by ancient technology stolen from forgotten civilizations. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear. Humanity had crossed a line. It had shown the galaxy that it was no longer weak or afraid. But silence was not peace. Captain Cale Rennick knew this better than anyone. He stood on the observation deck of Erebus, staring out at the endless void. The stars twinkled faintly, their light cold and distant. To him, they seemed less like beacons of hope and more like eyes watching, waiting. Out there, somewhere, plans were being made. Leaders plotted revenge. Armies prepared for war. Erebus had bought humanity time, but how much? Behind him, Dr. Alara Voss entered the room. Her face was pale, her movements slow and deliberate. She hadn't slept properly since the battle. Neither had Rennick, but he didn't let it show. Not to her, not to the crew. Someone had to stay strong. "We've got a problem," Voss said without preamble, holding up a tablet. On its screen, streams of data scrolled rapidly. "The Voidborn Collective is moving." Rennick frowned, stepping closer to examine the information. The Voidborn were enigmatic, their motives as mysterious as their technology. Unlike the Zenari, who sought conquest through brute force, the Voidborn preferred subtlety. They manipulated events from the shadows, pulling strings across star systems. If they were mobilizing, it meant something big was coming. "What are they doing?" Rennick asked, his voice low. "They're gathering near the edge of our territory," Voss replied. "Not openly hostile, but definitely not friendly. It's like they're testing us." "Testing what?" "Our resolve," Voss said grimly. "Erebus proved we can fight. Now they want to see if we'll back down or escalate." Rennick clenched his fists, frustration boiling inside him. Every decision felt like walking a tightrope. One misstep, and humanity could plunge into a war it might not survive. But doing nothing wasn't an option either. The galaxy wouldn't forget what Erebus had done. Retaliation was inevitable. Hours later, the bridge was alive with activity. Officers moved quickly between stations, their faces tense with anticipation. Outside, the Voidborn fleet loomed ominously, a collection of massive constructs that seemed to defy physics. Their surfaces shimmered with strange energy patterns, pulsing rhythmically like living organisms. No one knew exactly how many ships were out there. Their cloaking technology made them nearly impossible to detect. "They're hailing us," Lieutenant Mara Kincaid announced, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "Put it on screen," Rennick ordered. The main viewport flickered, revealing a figure unlike anything the crew had seen before. It was humanoid in shape, but translucent, its form shifting constantly as though made of liquid light. Its voice echoed unnaturally, layered with multiple tones. "You have disrupted the balance," it said simply. "This cannot go unanswered." Rennick stepped forward, his expression calm but firm. "We don't want war. We only wanted to protect ourselves." "The act of protection is often indistinguishable from aggression," the Voidborn replied. "Your actions have consequences. Will you accept them?" Before Rennick could respond, alarms blared suddenly, cutting through the tension. Kincaid spun around, her fingers flying across her console. "They're charging weapons. Raise shields," Rennick barked. "Prepare all offensive systems." Voss gripped the railing tightly, her knuckles white. "We can't win this," she whispered. "There are too many of them." "We don't have to win," Rennick said, his voice hardening. "We just have to make them regret starting this." As the first volley of energy beams struck Erebus shields, the ship shuddered violently. The Voidborn weapons were unlike anything they'd faced before. Each blast sent shock waves rippling through the hull. Crew members stumbled, struggling to maintain their footing. But Erebus was built to endure. Its reactors roared to life, powering railguns and disruptors with terrifying efficiency. "Return fire," Rennick commanded. Railgun rounds streaked through space, tearing through the Voidborn fleet with devastating precision. Disruptor beams sliced through their cloaking fields, exposing their ships to counterattacks. For a moment, it seemed like Erebus might hold its own. But then, the Voidborn adapted, their ships merging together into larger, more resilient formations. "They're combining," Kincaid shouted, her voice tinged with panic. "Shields are failing." Rennick's mind raced. They couldn't keep fighting like this. Every second brought them closer to destruction. Then, an idea struck him. One final gamble. "Activate the displacement drive," he ordered. Voss turned sharply, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Are you insane? We barely survived the last surge." "This isn't about surviving," Rennick said grimly. "It's about ending this." Voss hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "Do it." The crew worked frantically, rerouting power and recalibrating systems. Outside, the Voidborn fleet closed in, sensing victory. Their weapons pounded Erebus relentlessly, pushing its defenses to the brink. Inside, alarms screamed as the displacement drive reached critical levels. "Everyone, brace yourselves," Rennick yelled, gripping the railing tightly. With a deafening roar, Erebus unleashed its energy surge once more. This time, the wave was even larger, engulfing not just the Voidborn fleet but entire sectors of space. When the light faded, nothing remained. Not the ships, not the weapons, not even the debris. Only silence. Across the galaxy, the event became legend. Some called it the Day of Shadows, others the Hour of Ruin. Whatever the name, its message was unmistakable. Erebus was not merely a weapon, it was a force of nature. Fear rippled through alien empires, their leaders scrambling to avoid provoking humanity again. For now, the galaxy held its breath. On board Erebus, the aftermath was sobering. Systems were damaged, resources depleted. The crew moved quietly, their expressions hollow. They had won, but at a cost none of them could fully comprehend. In the command center, Rennick sat alone, staring at the main viewport. The stars outside seemed dimmer somehow, their light muted by the weight of what they had done. Behind him, Voss approached silently, her steps heavy with exhaustion. "What happens now?" she asked softly. Rennick didn't answer immediately. He thought about the choices they had made, the lives lost because of them. Erebus was a symbol of humanity's strength, but also its capacity for destruction. "We move on," he said finally, his voice steady despite the uncertainty ahead. "Wherever we're needed. Whoever threatens us." Voss nodded, though her expression remained troubled. "And if they come again?" "They will," Rennick replied. "And when they do, Erebus will be ready." Somewhere in the vastness of space, Erebus drifted silently, a ghost among the stars.